What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? Well, a lot of people have been writing in and asking, what's my plan? Do you have a track plan, industry plan? What's your plan? Well, I don't have a plan. I never had a plan. I only have ideas, and once I see the corner or the straight, I'll think it's something to do with it. But the only idea or plan that I ever had is, you guys know that I'm in love with the Cumberland Mine Railroad in Pennsylvania. With videos from Dave from CCRX 6700. You may have seen me visit him or hang out with him, but I wanted to incorporate some of the Cumberland Mine on this layout. So that's the only idea or plan I ever had. So I'm going to take you around the room and kind of describe what my idea is, but it's not necessarily set in stone plan. So let's take a look. Now, when I first set out to do this, my plan was to have an HO scale slot track and HO scale train in this same room. And if you caught the earlier post that I did on pictures, that I had the slot track around the floor of this, the idea was to put it on the perimeter of the train track. I didn't want to incorporate it on top of the track. I wanted it its own separate thing. But the more I got to looking, there was too many blind spots, too far to run for a deslotting. So I decided to put it behind this on its own little table, because I needed a table back here for trains eventually. I'll get to that here in a bit. So the slot track around the HO track got scrapped. So if you go over to my other channel, Pappy's Potluck, as you see back there is the slot track, and that also will have trains eventually. You can go to Pappy's Potluck and see all the slot track fun and things that I did and how I built that bench work. But I stopped right here, as you've seen in previous videos. This will be a lift up style bridge to get through that door. From there to there, it'll be a lift up. So that's the only plan that was ever set in stone, was to have a lift up in front of the door here. Now, as we start moving left and going counterclockwise around the room, my plan is to represent, but not model exactly, the Cumberland Mine Railroad. This will be the mine and the loading for the rail cars over here. Mine will be somewhere in here. Probably have the processing plant, the prep plant, a couple silos for storage. But that's the plan for now in this corner, is the Cumberland Mine Railroad. And it'll actually rise above this. So the mine will be up about right here. So before I move on, you can see this section right here. I'm just trying to mock up and figure things out. The lift up will come across about right in there. It'll make the curve this way. Like I said, the mine will be above. So the main line trains that I'll be messing with will go underneath the coal mine and pop out the other side. So I'm going to have pretty much do a double main line, the entire layout for the mainline trains that I'm going to play. I just love running trains. It's not necessarily going to be a lot of switching operations going on. But the two main lines will continue down. The coal mine will continue down that way, go around that curve. Behind the chimney here, the coal train will continue across the deck bridge over here, and that's why I dropped it down. And I didn't have to drop it down. I could have left it, since the mine will be above all this. But I dropped it down because I do want to put a sheet of styrofoam or foam in there to carve a water trail and set a seam. And I did want a bridge here, a curving bridge for the two main trains coming this way. So it'll curve around this way, continue across the bridge this way. So the two trains will continue up the island here and make a curve. Once they come up around this curve, I'll have a double deck bridge going right here. So the drop down for the coal train over there will continue on. Maybe a town here, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm just building things. But I dropped this to even that for roadways, maybe a town. And I dropped this again to give some height to the double deck bridge. I just didn't want it 2 inches off the ground. I wanted to give a look of some height, so that's why it dropped down again. And once it comes off the double deck bridge, it'll curve through the wall. You can see the hole right there, curve through the wall as the coal train is coming across this way. So there'll be two tracks on this level and a track above it. So I will have to make an unrealistic double tunnel. That doesn't happen in life, but that's what's going to happen over here. Scenery will fix most of the issue there. And it will pop through above the steps, through the wall. The double main lines will come this way. The coal train will still be coming this way. Once they get past that section, you see I widened it. I don't know if I'm going to have a staging yard here for different type trains, because I do have an Amtrak passenger train. I do want to run some coil car trains. I do have some auto racks, some intermodals. So it'd be nice to stage a few I can just pull out and run anytime I want, instead of trying to get them out of drawers, constantly stacking them on there. The main lines will continue through. Like I said, these are all just an idea, not a plan. I'm sure the track will change, because with no plan, I just built the bench work, and I will lay the track however I built the bench work. So that's the other issue of not having a track plan versus building the bench work and then figuring out a plan. But this is how I wanted to do it, because I didn't have nothing set in stone. Coal train will continue through. As we move up past that section, you see I've already done a little bit of mocking up. I'm just trying to get a feel for what room I have for the harbor at the Cumberland mine, where they unload the trains to the barges. I'm thinking about putting a skinny river scene here with a couple barges where the trains unload the coal to. Like I said, I'm loosely representing the coal mine areas because the space and everything. So this is the engine house where they work on their engines, and they'll have another shed here for the tamper or the ballast regulator. I might actually switch this around and put the engine house and the sheds in the back corner to free up the visual space right here. I don't know yet. I may have to just flip it. Like I said, I'm just representing. So the two main line trains will also go underneath all this. This will be raised up. So those trains will continue, make the curve, and they'll go across the lift up bridge over there. Meanwhile, this is the fun part. You may very vaguely see an outline on the wall right there. That's where I plan to cut another hole. The coal train for the Cumberland mines will disappear into the next room. They will go through a hole there. They will pop out right over here and continue along. Now it'll be raised above the racetrack. So that was the idea of putting the bench work for the racetrack a little lower, because I knew the train was going to come in through high, and I still have room to reach under for deslotting slot cars. But it will continue around. Pardon the mess right here, but they'll continue around in this staging area here. So you notice when I first built the slot track, I scooted everything out to the edge. Now the platform for the trains will be right there below the door of the electric panel box, so I can still open it. So you'll see the distance I'll have. But the idea is to have two tracks here. So I will have a same exact coal train for the Cumberland mine. One will be empty, one will be loaded. So the idea of that is, since through this wall right here was where I was starting the Cumberland mine at, loading the train. So the loaded train will come through that hole and go through to where the train loads. So right there, move the camera. So it'll go through that wall, through the coal loading station, and it'll continue around the room. So when the loaded train comes through this side where it was supposed to unload at the harbor, it will come around here and park here. Then the tracks will switch and the empty train will move out this way and go through the wall that way. And it will continue empty back to where they load at. We'll go through this wall and it will park here. Tracks will switch, loaded train, then returns back this way through the loadout. Because that's how the Cumberland mine actually works. It's only point to point. It's not attached to any other railroad. It's only 17 miles of track. It comes loaded, it empties, and it goes right back to the mine. Loads up, goes right back to the barge. So it's back and forth 24/7. And that's how I kind of plan on doing this. So that idea popped into my head when I first met Dave and seen how the operation of the coal mine was. That's why the coal mine will be raised above. It will kind of be like one of them old Bachman trolleys, just back and forth, point to point. And I bought the electronics for this probably about 3-4 years ago, that you set it and forget it. The train pulls in, it automatically switches the track. The other train pulls out, does its thing, it pulls back in, stops, hits the switches. the other train moves out the other direction. It's all going to be based on DC for the coal mine, DCC for the trains that I'll be operating around the layout, wherever I put switching, an industry, whatever. That's how all that will work. That's the idea, not the plan. And if none of it works, then I just got a separate set of tracks that I can play with the coal mine. So we'll see how much work I can get done. I hope this answers some questions. I was going to do a couple more scenes, but the coal mine, let me walk this over and make you seasick. There is a section at the coal mine railroad that has a big deck bridge and the white covered bridge. Now you see it from looking this direction. This scene will be flipped. So the bridge will be there, the white covered bridge will be here, the road will continue this way, like I said, possibly into a town, I'm not quite sure, as the water flows out from the white covered bridge that way underneath the two railroad bridges that will be here for the main line. So that will be reversed. So real quick, in summary, loosely basing modeling off of the Cumberland Mine Railroad raised above the two main lines, and this will be roughly, loosely, the Cumberland Mine loading the train. Here's a picture. This area will be the harbor area of the Cumberland Mine Railroad. I may have to switch some things around because of space. This will be reverse angle of the white covered bridge and deck bridge that goes there. This section here will be a double deck bridge similar to what you see in Canova, West Virginia, but of course will not be on such a grand scale, just loosely basing it off that bridge because I love it. And all the rest of this will be just what happens along the way. No plan, no contingencies, no nothing. Just whatever I decide to stick on a flat spot. So there you go. Like I said, no plan, just whatever happens. I have ideas, but no plan. If the Cumberland Mine thing don't work out, like I said, I got some extra scenery, some extra track that I can run other trains through. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it answers a bunch of questions that I've been getting. And that's what's going to happen. And you guys all know in model railroading that it all changes on a whim. You might figure you want something in that corner and it does not work. So you'll change it up and put something else there. And that may be what happens here. The Cumberland Mine might get scrapped, who knows? But that's the plan, that's the idea. I mean, I have all the electronics in drawers in the house that will make this work, but just making it work is a whole nother deal. All right. Till you next time, like, share, subscribe. Don't cost nothing. Hit that button. Happy out.